Misa back.
Clear the air lanes for the big broadcast.
We're not professional podcasters.
Say what?
We barely know what we're doing,
It's funny because it's true.
but we have fun anyway.
I'm here to podcast.
Does everybody know what time it is?
We're going streaky! Yeah!
No, we're not. It's time for movies, pop culture, and more with the all-new Culture Cast, starting now. I'm Nick,
I'm the Gorehound.
and this is the all-new Culture Cast. And today is a very, very special episode. Aren't they all?
They are.
But specifically, we're talking about the classic comic book storyline, The Death of Superman. And the reason that we're talking about that storyline is because this episode is... We're recording this on 11/16. It's scheduled to go up on 11/20. And 11/18 is going to be the 25th anniversary of this actual story. So,
That means very little to me.
well, it's the 25th anniversary of the story, so it's a milestone.
But I understand the significance of it. To me, it's just, let's talk about a really cool storyline.
It is, and I think we're doing it at an appropriate time. So, there you go. But before we get into that, because I'm sure we'll talk about this and its follow-up volumes a little bit, and probably all the times it's been, tried to be adapted and what. There's a lot we can talk about. But before we get into that, let's get into.
So we were going to talk about the recent comic book convention, DuPage comic convention.
MightyCon,
MightyCon,
which we've talked about before on the show.
We've been going to this one for what, 3 years now.
Oh, it hasn't been that long. I've been to this one
At
once
least
before.
At least twice.
Yeah, and
Okay.
at least
Well,
the
yeah,
one that's in DuPage. Yeah, I've been to it one time in the summer and one time in the now in the winter. And you've gone to, I think, more times than I have.
Oh, that was it. Because I went one year on my own, and I was like, this will be different going to a convention by myself. And it was kind of lonely. Because I was like, I guess I'll just do my own thing. Like, just completely no offense on your end, because I was, willing to go whatever. And I was like, oh, this might be an interesting thing. Kind of like going to the movies on your own. Mm-hmm. Where you're like, I wonder how that would be. It's a little bit more lonely doing this. But so this year we both went. It is only it's actually literally 0.8 miles from my new house. So it's really close, but it was also very freezing, so we didn't walk there.
Yeah. No.
Oh my gosh, it would have been very cold. But yeah, we went this year. I thought it was I feel like these productions are getting slightly incrementally better each year, but it wasn't significantly different than last year. It was kind of the same stuff. I felt it was a little bit more packed. They had a little bit more content. Mm-hmm. Layout was pretty much exactly the same. I don't know where to pinpoint that it was better. I just feel like it was a little bit. It could have also been my attitude about it, because I got a lot of good stuff. And I'm feeling pretty good about my collection now. It's really starting to take shape, and I'm starting to see all these continuous lines. So I'm not just picking up random Deadpool stories. I'm actually looking for individual comics now. I'm blossoming in my comic adventures, to say.
Yeah, it's a fun show. It's, as we've talked about before, it's not as big as a C2E2, and that's actually okay. It's good that if you just want to go and look to buy stuff, because they do have some places that have good deals.
They're phenomenal deals.
Yeah.
You just have to look for them.
Yeah, I'm tempted. I haven't, but they have big comic book collection called omnibuses. Omnibuses, omnibus. What's the plural of omnibus? Anyway, where
Omnibussy.
it sounds like a James Bond name, omnibussy. Um, but and usually these things can cost like upwards of $100 because they're nicely reprinted and the good paper and good hardback and all that. And you can get two for the price of one, which is a phenomenal deal. I mean, I haven't dipped my toe into that, but I recognize that's a good deal. And I mean, the entrance fee was $8, and
I have to say this one thing. They turned away a guy because he didn't have cash, and they were like, "There's an ATM down the street. You could go there."
Yeah, because their ATM was broken or something.
I'm like, dude, it's $8. Just let him walk around, honestly. And it's a comic book convention. Like, don't make people feel weird about it. But I don't know how that happened. It was unfortunate.
And I loved it when I got up there. I'm like, "Hi," and the guy looked at me like, "What can I do for you?" I'm like,
yeah.
Like, dude, really?
What else would I be here for? I'd like the season pass, please.
Yeah, I'd like a Big Mac and an order of fries. I guess what made it even more weird is that you had the people who were checking you in. The guy I talked to was dressed as very awkwardly dressed as Thanos from.
He was trying.
Yeah, I give him credit. From the Marvel movies, it just made the situation much more weirder. But I don't know.
Yeah.
At least this time, I didn't have a guy yell at me or condescend towards me when I was trying to look through comics.
Oh yeah.
When we went to this thing before, I walked up to a guy because I was trying to find the order of which one of these booths was set up. And I asked the guy, like, "Hey, is this an alphabetical order or is it random?" And the guy looks at me, he's like, "You gotta get a list, bro." And I was like, "What? What?" Because I don't think I was asking an unreasonable question, but it was just kind of like, it was so weird.
Yeah, it's disrespectful and weird.
But
Why are you going to be here if you're just going to be an asshole about it?
There are assholes all over the place. Like C2E2 has so many assholes.
But yeah, I'm going to keep on going each year.
Oh yeah.
The deals are phenomenal. I mean, I was at a 25-cent table for quite a long time, and after I made my rounds, the cheaper the table, the more packed it is.
Yeah.
But it was like I knew what I was getting myself into, and then I moved up to the 50-cent ones.
Oh.
And I added some more to my collection, and yeah, so it's a good time. It's a good precursor to C2E2, I'd say.
Like I had picked up a random thing of an old comic book series called DC Comics Presents, which was pretty much Superman teams up with Hero of the Month. And I really, really liked the comic. I was kind of like, I want to get some more of these. I'm intrigued. And they had them for fairly cheap, too, at this one place. And unfortunately, it doesn't look like that those people were there this time around, which is unfortunate because I wanted to give them my business, but sadly, they weren't there. But I don't know. I applaud you for having the patience to go through that 25-cent bin because, like, one of the things I hate is when they have these conventions and they have these booths and the comics are just randomly tossed in there with no semblance. It makes me so frustrated because I don't know. I ain't got time for that.
Yeah.
But like if I'm looking for something, like if I'm looking for like I want this, copy of Superman number 112 or something, like
yeah,
I want to be able to find it with some relative ease. I don't know. I'm sure there's a method behind that madness, but whatevs. Gotta get a list, bro.
And I brought my list.
You did.
Yeah, but unfortunately my printer ink wasn't cooperating as it ever does. Printer ink. Nobody ever has printer ink when they need it.
That's true.
You've been watching anything?
what have you been watching?
I've been picking up more Jessica Jones to keep with the comic book theme.
Yeah.
About a third of the way through the season now.
They announced Punisher.
Yeah, that comes out tomorrow as of this recording, I think.
Are you serious? I don't want to bust through that.
No one is forcing you to watch it.
Yeah, but
just
we're
throwing that one out there.
No, Jenna's gonna be like, let's talk about Punisher next week.
Is she though?
I don't know. Or maybe you're gonna do it. We'll see.
I don't know. I'm probably not gonna get around to watching it anytime soon. So no worries on that.
I'm trying to get through my New Year's resolution of catching up on all my unread comics and reading my third and final book for the year. So I'm trying to get through that as much as I can instead of watching TV series, because honestly, there's not a whole lot on TV that I really want to watch. I was thinking about getting back into Star Trek, though.
I applaud you for doing that.
Because beginning of the year, I was getting into it, and then, summer picked up, and haven't really gone back to it. But I was working from home yesterday, and I wanted... Typically, when I work from home, I watch, old sci-fi movies that are just, black and white and just zone out. That's my favorite thing to watch while working from home, because you don't really need to watch, and it's still fun. But since we've moved, we don't really have a functioning DVD player currently, and so I was just trying to search for something. And I was like, Star Trek, why not? So I was watching that in and out for a little bit.
Very nice. Well, as you know, Netflix has the complete library of TV shows, just about.
Right.
So you have your large selection. You got 300 some odd hours of Star Trek to watch. So
yeah.
Get on that.
Yeah.
That should be a new section. Gorehound versus Star Trek. Where are you right now?
Oh, we were gonna have a new segment. It was the weekly Star Trek question.
Were we? I don't remember doing that.
Yeah, because when I first started watching it, I would just ask random questions like, "What's this connection? Who is this? Why are they doing that?" And you would answer it in length.
I would totally be for that, because I could totally do that.
Yeah, maybe if I start picking it up and the Graveyard Queen allows me to watch it frequently.
Allows you? Come on, she'll like it too.
Yeah. No, I do doubt that. But yeah, maybe if I start watching it regularly, we can introduce that as a segment. Maybe I might need to get a backlog or something. So,
what about you? What's your?
Well, yeah, I watched a little bit of Star Trek. I was working from home because we were having a home repair, and so I couldn't really. I was doing work and focusing on the home guy, so I wasn't really into it. But I'll probably rewatch it. I have not watched anything besides one episode of a TV show. And that TV show is leading into, I'm pretty sure it's a repeat.
Man Crush.
Mr. Robot.
Oh, I thought you were going to go with Shameless.
Oh, no, I on Sling, they had free Showtime or something, and Shameless was on there, the first episode of the new season of Shameless, and I was like, oh, I totally want to watch this, but I'm not, because it was free for a weekend, so I'm not going to watch, the first episode and then wait, many, many months until it's released again.
Yeah.
So, but I was going to get back into it, but at the same time, I'm like, do I really want to? But yeah, I watched the latest episode of Mr. Robot, and I just love the season. I don't know if I'm focusing more on it, or it's ramping up the complexity of it, and that was where I lost it last season. It was just I don't know what's going on, and part of it is the main character doesn't know what's going on, so it's just confusing as all hell. But I'm still with it. I understand as much as I'm supposed to understand about it. And, Rami Malek is the coolest guy, and he's such the perfect role for this, because he is just so weird, and he's kind of in touch with his own expertise, but not really in touch with his mind. It's odd because he's so perfect at hacking things. Like, he never makes a mistake. And I kind of admire that. Like, I'm very good at what I do for my job, but I do make a lot of mistakes. I'm still very good at it, but he's very good at it, and he never makes a mistake. And there was like a few episodes back where he was like, I won a worldwide hacking competition, like just by stepping on this guy's computer and doing like a few, and yeah. So, but yeah, enough about Man Crush of the Week. So, because you're probably going to hear it on repeat next week.
So today, the classic storyline, The Death of Superman, which, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, is celebrating its 25th anniversary. And that kind of blows my mind that this comic book storyline came out 25 years ago.
So Superman has been dead for 25 years, huh?
Yeah, pretty much. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. It's been weird. Comics have been without him all this time.
Yeah.
So kind of awkward with the movies, I guess. I have a confession to make. This Death of Superman storyline was the comic book, or the comic story, that got me, and probably quite a few others around my age, into actual comic books. This is the thing that did it.
It wasn't Marvel Zombies?
No, surprisingly not.
Because that's what got me into it.
Well, we could do a Marvel Zombies podcast at some point in time if you want, when it's celebrating its 25th anniversary. But
right, yeah.
But this was a very important touchstone of my childhood that has affected me all the way to today. The ramifications of it. So the Kiwi has this to blame for everything. But
yeah, and my parents even bought the graphic novel when it happened because they thought that this graphic novel would be worth like a lot of money because of just how epic of a situation. And I remember seeing this cover on my mom's bedside, and I was like, why is she reading a comic about Superman? And I did not comprehend it. And I didn't even read this until it must have been a few years after I read Marvel Zombies and I started trying to get more into stuff, that I actually went back to her and tried to dig this up. And at that same time, I probably dug up all those old Archie comics too.
Yeah, it's a pretty epic storyline, and it really caught wind in the media at the time, which I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit later. But in The Death of Superman, it is a 7-issue story arc that has this creature called Doomsday that breaks out of his prison in Earth, somewhere in Earth, and ravages halfway across America. Superman faces him, they have an epic battle, and they ultimately punch each other to death. And that is the entirety of the story. It doesn't sound like much. It sounds like it's really a paper-thin story, and in some ways it kind of is, but there's so much more going on when it comes to what this story arc actually represents. When you had first read it, Gorehound, what did you think of The Death of Superman?
I hate the idea of Doomsday.
Really?
Where it's just this unbeatable villain that has no weakness. Like, he shouldn't have died because, according to the logic that you've described and what I've read, is that Doomsday just keeps on getting reborn after he dies, stronger and stronger.
Mm-hmm.
So, theoretically, logically, he should come back even stronger.
Yes, and I'd love to touch on that a little bit later. But...
Right. And so that was my biggest irk about this. And I don't really have an affinity towards Superman. I have the utmost respect that he is one of the best superheroes in the universe, the comic universe. But it doesn't really appeal to me. It's not an Army of Darkness. It's not a Dr. Morbius. So it doesn't have that appeal. But the story is so good that I've read it a few times, and it really holds up. Because the story is just very epic, and I mean, he dies. And that's just crazy.
Completely off topic, but speaking of Morbius, the living vampire, did you hear they're making a movie about him?
No, are you serious?
Yep, it's like how they're trying to make a Venom movie, where they're and it's supposed to be a spin-off of Spider-Man. They're doing the same thing with Morbius.
Oh my gosh, I've been waiting for that because in Blade, apparently, like there was a deleted scene where you could see Dr. Morbius in like the back because they're part of the Midnight Suns and sometimes enemies. But I want to check that out because that is like so cool.
So, anyway, getting back to Superman.
Yeah.
You're right. Doomsday as a character is not much of a character, and a lot of people today like to criticize this story and the subsequent two volumes, the World Without a Superman and the Return of Superman, or Funeral for a Friend, or whatever you want to call that. But that Doomsday is people complain that why was Superman killed by a mindless monster? How come it could have been like one of his real villains? Like there's no epic, there's nothing. Like people like that completely miss the point of what Doomsday was supposed to be. He wasn't supposed to be a character. He was supposed to be a force of nature. And if you had one of Superman's traditional enemies like Lex Luthor or Brainiac or any of them kill Superman, I don't think that would have worked because obviously Superman was going to come back from the dead, which he eventually did. That would have sort of changed the dynamic of a particular character in a way that would have been, I think, a bad move. So bringing up a brand new character, bringing him just be a force of nature, I think works much better because the real storyline behind all of this, it wasn't how he died, but that he did die and what happens from there. But I mean, if you don't like Doomsday because of something like what you brought up, you make a good point. I can't argue that at all. If something doesn't work for you, it doesn't work. But if you like acknowledge like what he was supposed to be, then I get it. To go into my nerd mode for a second, Doomsday. When they made I don't know how far in advance they worked out Doomsday's backstory or anything, but as you mentioned, at the time that the Death Superman was written, no one knew what Doomsday was all about. No one knew that he could, how he resurrects, pretty much, like how he can't die.
Because that's supposed his first introduction to the universe, comic universe.
Yeah, and they make this stuff up as they go. But I mean, eventually it was revealed that Doomsday was an experiment. They actually originated from the planet Krypton. Oh boy, spoilers. That it was meant to be the most perfect genetic being, that every time it meets something that can kill it, it'll come back being, I don't know if invulnerable is the right term, but it'll come back being
overpowering that ability.
Yeah, it wouldn't be, that wouldn't be it would learn how to adapt. And
right, if he was shot by a gun, he would come back with bulletproof skin.
Yeah, something. Yeah, exactly. But there was a storyline later on where Doomsday ended up coming back. He somehow killed Superman again, and he was killed. But when he regenerated this time, he was given a individual personality, and he given rational thought, and he realized, oh my God, I killed this guy Superman. This was a terrible idea. Why did I do this? So he became a hero of his own, and he continues to be a hero for like hundreds of years. And then something happened where he realized that because he had killed Superman, it caused this other bad guy to do something, and so Doomsday realized, listen, I gotta fix my mistake. But if I fix it, that means I'm going to have to go back to be that mindless beast again. Well,
Yeah,
that's a sacrifice I need to make. So, which is kind of a neat way to go about it. So,
it is.
um,
Yeah, I want to look into some of these other Doomsday interpretations. But yeah, because I suppose that if this was my first time reading it, and it was just released, I wouldn't have known anything about his backstory, so I wouldn't really have known that he's just going to come back even stronger.
mm-hmm.
For all I know is that he was just really strong, and he was just as strong as Superman, and that's why they balanced each other out and eventually killed each other.
Yeah. But, yeah. Do you know how this story came to be?
I presumed that DC was like ready to move on to trying to, like, instead of just selling this one awesome Spider-Man comic, I presume that they wanted to sell.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. What character is this?
Oh, I'm sorry. I've got this Dr. Morbius thing still up. Let me close that out. I don't know, but if I were to take a guess, I would presume that they saw a marketing attempt where instead of having just one Superman comic, they could have 4 of them. The Superboy, the other...
Like when they spun them all off.
Right. Because that does seem like a great marketing campaign. If you're selling one really great Superman comic, then why not sell 4 of them?
Well, you're not quite right on that. That's what a lot of people believe.
You could say that I'm wrong. That's fine.
Well, like you're half right. I'll get into that.
Okay.
So, when at this time in Superman publishing, Superman, and this is my favorite era of Superman. It just is. Maybe because I grew up on it. I was introduced to it. But there were 4 Superman comics already going on. There was Superman, there was Adventures of Superman, there was Action Comics, and then there was Superman, the Man of Steel. And each of these comics were released one week after another. So you got Superman almost every single week of the year.
Mm.
And the cool thing is that even though there are 4 distinct titles, it was like a soap opera where one issue would lead into the following week of the next title and going. So it would be like the story would be from like the Man of Steel to Superman to Adventures of Superman to Action Comics to Man of Steel again. So it's like you're getting one big Superman comic each week.
That is interesting. And that sounds awesome.
It's a great time to be alive for a Superman fan. And originally, Superman number 75, the issue where he died, it was supposed to be originally the marriage issue where Superman was finally going to marry Lois Lane.
Mm.
But around this time, the DC Comics publishing was told, no, you can't marry these characters because we have a brand new TV series called Lois and Clark, and we don't want them to marry in the comics until they get married in the TV show, which wouldn't be until another 3 years later. So they had like a whole year of storyline that at the last minute they were told they had to get rid of. So they were like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And then one of the writers said, people are taking Superman for granted. What if we just killed him and see where that happens? And at first they're like, nah, that's a cheesy idea. But then they started talking about it, and they really liked the idea. And so they decided to run with it. They were not expecting the media storm that was going to follow. Because to them, it was just a storyline. It wasn't going to be anything unusual. But nothing else happened in the world that day. So newspapers started, and radio and TV were saying, like, oh, Superman's going to die. And that started this huge frenzy of people like, well, I got to get that issue. That's going to be worth something. They were not, DC Comics was not predicting it to be that big of a seller. So going back to what you were saying, in the subsequent storyline, when Superman came back from the dead, there were four Superman characters who all, each claimed to be him, and they each appeared in the individual titles. Like so each title had its own Superman. That I could see was more marketing based. Like, well, we did this so good, so let's play around with this other stuff. So
Yeah.
I could see that being it. But originally, it was just meant to be a story, and ever since then, it was like the huge event. And ever since then, there seems to be a big event. Like, this storyline changed comic books forever in terms of how they do big storylines, crossover events, and everything. Shortly after this, you had Batman, whose back was broken and was replaced. You had Spider-Man revealed that he was actually a clone. They're doing all crazy things to capitalize on what this story kind of started. And some you could say it did good things or bad things, but before it, nothing was caught people's attention as much as it did. So it was a pretty big deal back then. What did you think of the follow-up storylines? Like, you had the
that was what I thought was included in this graphic novel. So I was like, oh, I'm going to finish this fast. I was like, I thought that there was a lot more to it. And yeah, because after he dies, so you said this was a 7-issue storyline?
the original one, yeah. So in the Death of Superman collection, there are 7 issues.
Okay. And then how many issues are there until he comes back?
Oh my God! So in the second big storyline, which was titled "Funeral for a Friend," and also in the paperback, the trade paperback was titled "World Without a Superman." That was 9 issues, and those issues dealt with the direct aftermath of Superman dying. So that dealt with how people reacted to Superman dying, how people were dealing with it, like Lois Lane dealing with it, Superman's parents dealing with it, the other superheroes. Some shady organizations were trying to steal his body so they can clone him.
Yeah.
And it all came to a head in Adventures of Superman number 500, which Superman's dad has a heart attack and goes to presumably some afterlife. And he sees Superman's soul trying to be stolen by some demons. Comic books are weird. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah.
And so his dad saves him and brings him back to life. So in 500 is when we think, Superman's back. But then we're introduced to 4 different Supermen. And this comes into the 3rd volume, which was titled The Reign of the Supermen. And this one lasted, oh my God, at least, it had to be close to like 15 issues.
Okay.
So this is a thick guy. So it was at least a good year that all 3 of these storylines kind of occurred. So
yeah, I think this was the one that I was looking forward to because all of those characters were so crazy and they were so cool too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had Superboy, Steel, Cyborg Superman, and the last son of Krypton.
Yeah, also known as the Eradicator.
Okay.
So here's what's so awesome about the Superman comics of this time and why I love them so much is that it's tough to talk about this storyline without going back to the beginning. In 1986, DC Comics rebooted their comic book continuity.
How do you know the year offhand?
Because I have really nothing better to do with my time, and I just love this era so much.
Okay.
And so they rebooted Superman from the beginning. And so he had a new origin. He was meeting all his characters, all his villains, side characters for the first time. And they really built a huge mythology behind Superman. And by this time, almost a good 10 years later, maybe not quite, but close, they were building this elaborate mythology. And by this time, a lot of the threads are starting to converge onto one another. So, like reading a lot of this stuff, if you're a brand new reader, you'll be able to pick up on it because it explains things. Like the cyborg Superman was a guy who was an astronaut who Superman saved, but something bad happened, and he deemed revenge on Superman. The Eradicator was originally a device that Superman found while flying around in space. He tried to convert Superman into a bad guy, but he defeated it. So like and these happen over long stretches of the years, and it pays off. Like this guy, like the Cyborg, hadn't appeared in a number of years in a different form, and then they bring him back. Like if you're a long-term reader, there's like payoff. Like, oh, I remember that guy from like all those years ago.
Yeah, I'd imagine.
And it's so satisfying that if you're trying to read this from the beginning, you see these things like keep happening, keep occurring. And the Superboy character was a new character, although where he sprung from was a reoccurring presence in the Superman books, and Steel was brand new. There was no background on him prior to this, but it's just it gives it such an epic feeling that
they're pulling all these elements from earlier storylines, and all into a single line.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of the plot points that were originally introduced from 1986 and onwards, a lot of them concluded within the next year or two after the Death and Return ended with a storyline called The Fall of Metropolis. They wrapped up a lot of loose ends because they wanted to take it in a new direction. But it's just such a satisfying read. Like when I first read The Death of Superman, I didn't have any of this background. So like I'm reading and I'm like, wait a second, Superman, the Lois Lane knows Superman's identity? What? Who are these other characters in here? Wait, why does Lex Luthor have like red hair and talk like an Australian? What's that about?
That made me so furious that like the way that he was treating Supergirl. And from what I understand is that that's not Lex Luthor, that's Lex Luthor's son.
Sort of.
Okay.
Again, this is something that's so crazy that in the Superman comics, Lex Luthor. Oh god, this goes back to the beginning too. Lex Luthor, like I'm going to stop you, Superman. So he gives himself a kryptonite ring that he wears at all time to keep Superman at bay. But because he kept wearing the ring, it gave him radiation poisoning, and he got cancer from it. And he tried to stop the cancer, but he couldn't do it, and he knew he was going to die. So what he did was he faked his death. He transferred his mind into a young clone body and pretended to be his own son, Lex Luthor II.
Oh, okay.
It's crazy!
That is.
And
so how does Supergirl fall for him?
Well, oh my god, that's a whole nother story too. So Supergirl in this is not the Supergirl that most people tend to think of. Where this Supergirl is not Superman's cousin. This Supergirl, she came from... Okay, so there's an alternate dimension, essentially. And in that world, Superman didn't exist. And these space criminals came on Earth and wiped out the planet. So that world's version of Lex Luthor, who was really a good guy, created, not like a clone, but created its own hero, genetics, and created this Supergirl, and to help fight the bad guys. Well, it's not working, so she tries to get real Superman to help, but in the process, the whole world is destroyed. So this Supergirl has nowhere else to go. So she comes back with Superman to the real world.
Interesting.
And so that's where this Supergirl comes from. Now, when this Supergirl first met this Lex Luthor, it reminded her of her version of Lex. And because of that resemblance, she kind of fell in love with him.
Lex.
Yeah, good guy Lex. And everyone thinks this Lex is a good guy. So So she kind of fell in love with him at that point. Um, so that's kind of like another thing that I was reading that like there's like about 2/3 of the way through, Supergirl decides I'm going to take on Doomsday, and he punches her, and her whole skin just like flies like right off. Like
Oh yeah, why is that?
because she's not like a human being. She's like this matrix of genetics, and she could like shapeshift. So
Okay, that like flew right over my head, but I
yeah,
was like,
you're not
there
gonna.
must be there
Yeah,
must be so much to the story that I'm just
yeah,
like, okay, I'm just gonna ignore it and we'll get back to it later.
yeah. You're like I remember reading this when I was like 9 or 10 or something, and I'm like, what is going on in here? Like you didn't know what was going on, but it made you want to know. It made you like, well, I want to know what that is. So you want to find
Yeah,
out what's happening.
yeah.
So, um, but
So,
yeah,
so we still are on topic with the story.
yeah.
It's just there are so many little tendrils to this.
Oh my God, yeah. Like,
And
yeah.
one of the tendrils that I wanted to ask is, so there's the Justice League, not the Justice League that is being released today, but who are these characters? Like there was Bloodwind
Yeah, Bloodwind.
and
That
Guy
guy.
Gardner.
Yeah,
So these are all members of the Justice League in that year, right?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
They when DC did their reboot in the 80s, they wanted to bring in a new Justice League, but they decided not to have the heavy hitters be on the team. So like Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, they
They were
really
selling their own comics really well.
yeah, and they wanted to do something different.
Yeah.
So the writers wanted to make it more of a light-hearted book, a more of a funny book. So they kind of brought all these like C-lister characters on. Like you had Blue Beetle, Booster
Yeah.
Gold, Fire Ice, Maxima, and Guy Gardner. So you had all these like kind of C-lister characters who in the comic they're always making jokes and they're always having doing funny stuff. So and that was what the Justice League was at that point in time. So
Okay. So specifically, who is Bloodwind?
that is a great question, because Bloodwind in reality is the Martian Manhunter,
Oh,
and
okay.
I don't know the full story, but there was a big mystery of who Bloodwind actually was, and the Justice League was trying to figure it out. Like, who is this guy? And something happened.
Yeah, yeah, because even Superman was like I'm trying to understand who this guy is, and he said something, so this gives me like this hint.
Mhm.
But okay,
But
I just know that he was the coolest one of the group, and he
yeah.
kind of held a little bit more precedence over the other members.
Mhm.
So it's like maybe like they were trying to like elevate him up to like a Superman status, because he looked like as cool as Superman did, in my opinion.
He definitely has an awesome look about him. But yeah, I don't know exactly what happened to Martian Manhunter to make him think he's this other guy. I don't know that story, but that's the little I do know is that that's who he was eventually supposed to be.
Okay.
But yeah. Guy Gardner was a Green Lantern who got kicked out of the Green Lanterns, but somehow he still has a ring. I don't know that story, but he's kind of like an a-hole. He is a total a-hole to Superman all the time.
Yeah, his haircut was
It's very 90s.
pretty. I can't even. He was like the ugliest thing in this book. It's just that haircut. I was like, oh my gosh.
He just screams douchebag.
I know it is just like, gosh. Well, I hope the best for him wherever he is right now, the Green Lantern or wherever.
The writers knew exactly what they were doing. People love the shit on this story nowadays, and I guarantee you, these are people who either didn't understand the industry, or didn't understand where the industry was at, or don't realize why this was such a good storyline. Like it's easy to crap on it now because I don't know, it's cool to hate on popular things. There are volumes where they have like all three of these stories in one epic sized volume.
Right, and I think that is where I originally read it because you must own it.
I do. Well, I have each of the three stories, but I have them in like three separate books.
Okay.
I don't have
That's
the complete onesie volume.
that must be where I read this because I was like, I don't know where I would have found this. I don't have the individual comics. I only have the Death of Superman. So that's why I know that I've read it, but I just don't know where I got it from.
I think you may have borrowed it from. That sounds familiar.
Yeah. Yeah, but I also wanted to just throw that out there. The Shaq movie with
Steel.
which I think would be a great live podcast.
We need to do a Shaq month. Like every month, we just do another Shaq movie.
Oh my gosh, that would be difficult. That would be difficult.
Nonsense.
But I think Steel would be a great commentary podcast or live podcast where we all get together and watch it, because that is just, I don't know how they pulled that Steel out of the comics, because it is supposed to be based in Steel,
Yeah.
the Superman character.
Yeah. Like,
It's just very far interpretation.
yeah, there are some spin-off characters that you can make a movie about where you don't need where the character originated from, like Dr. Morbius.
Yeah.
You could do a movie just on him. You don't need Spider-Man in there. You really
Right.
don't. But Steel, his existence hinges on Superman. Like, he wears like a giant Superman S on his chest. I mean, you can't do that movie without Superman. I guess you could try to do it. Maybe Superman exists somewhere in that world, but like he didn't exist in the Steel movie, so it's so weird.
And that movie is just lives in what was it? Like a garbage.
A dumpster fire? The movie's a dumpster
Yeah.
fire?
Something like that. He lives in there, and it's just, gosh, I'm getting excited for this. What else is on your mind?
This Superman storyline, his death, has been so influential that ever since the comic came out, they've been trying to make a movie about it.
Yes, Batman versus Superman, where they glossed over this entire thing.
Now, I haven't seen Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice, but I do know that he bites it in the end.
Yes,
Spoilers.
without Doomsday.
Well, I thought they did call it Doomsday, but it just didn't look
Right.
anything like Doomsday.
Um,
Or it was supposed to be their version of Doomsday.
who was the villain in this?
Wasn't Lex Luthor?
Yes. Oh, okay. Yeah, Doomsday's in there. But I remember watching it, and my interpretation was they don't care about the death of Superman. They missed a huge storyline that, I mean, I'm just thinking, you bring Superboy into the cinematic universe, and you've got your next Spider-Man. I mean, this...
You could, yeah.
I mean, this guy
They still
is
might.
just,
You never know. Maybe they'll do it differently in the sequels or something. But
yeah.
even before Batman versus Superman, they wanted to make a Superman movie in the '90s. Even with Christopher Reeve in the role. I mean, that's how committed they were at that point. Where Superman was going to die and come back to life. Eventually, they were in process of making a movie that was originally written by Kevin Smith, called Superman Lives. I've read the script; it's not very good. And I guess Tim Burton came on, and he got his own writers. And Tim Burton was going to direct it, and Nicolas Cage was going to star as Superman.
Right, bringing back to the iconic photo of Nicolas Cage in a Superman outfit.
Yes. And it was never made. They spent a ton of money on it and never got done. when
So you think that there is some filmed footage of Nicolas Cage as Superman?
no, there's no film footage other than just
Oh.
maybe testing the costume out or something. But
Okay.
they never got that far to actually film it. But money,
Gotcha.
pre-production money was spent. Like Nicolas Cage got paid whether the movie was made or not. Same with I think Tim Burton. So
Okay.
when Superman Returns came out, that movie's budget was so huge because a lot of it, well, a good chunk of it was the leftover money that was actually spent on failed Superman movie projects. But even in that movie, Superman briefly died in Superman Returns, where he lifted the big kryptonite rock out of the sky.
Yeah.
So, like, and then, yeah, they finally brought it to screen with the last year's Batman v Superman. So this storyline has been getting the cinematic portrayal. Oh, even the they have already had an animated movie called Superman Doomsday, which came out about 10 years ago. And they're making, and I'm looking forward to this, a two-part animated movie based more closely on this storyline.
Okay.
So, like, the first part, I guess, is going to be about the death, and the second part is going to be with all the four Supermen. Which is supposed to come out sometime next year, and I'm actually looking forward to that. I'm hoping it'll be a faithful adaptation.
Yeah. I do apologize that Doomsday is sadly in Batman v Superman. I was just not remembering because now I'm looking at these images. I'm like, oh, I do remember that. I just remember there was nothing after that. I don't know. I'm just gonna back out of this opinion because I don't remember how I was feeling after that. I'm just looking at all these screenshots and I'm like, I don't remember how I felt. So, yeah.
Well, yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. This is an important storyline.
Yeah, pretty awesome.
Doomsday's awesome. I don't care. I think he looks cool.
He does. He looks awesome. He's got bony protrusions and he's got white hair for really no reason. And his look transforms throughout the book. Because at the very beginning, you just see him in pretty much
in like that suit, that containment
a green suit that's just bound. And then as the pages goes on, it gets more ripped, and then at the end, you just see them. It's kind of like in horror stories where you see like a little bit at the beginning, and by the end, like you pretty much get the full frontal of the monster.
Did they drop some D?
Right, exactly. No D dropped in this one, or not that I noticed.
And you were looking.
I was. That's like, where is it?
Maybe it's a bone.
Probably. Yeah, he's really awesome. It's just the theory behind him. Unless he is supposed to be like Thanos, where he is just like unstoppable. What is his weakness?
I'm not sure.
I don't think he has a weakness. And with that assumption, that's okay. That he is just supposed to be this god that is going to kill a Superman god.
I just sent you an image.
Okay.
You'll like it. It's a naked Doomsday for you.
Is it?
He doesn't have any genitalia.
Look at that. Oh, how about that? That's not his most flattering pose.
No, it really isn't, but, what are you going to do?
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I'm quite impressed with your knowledge, even if you pretty much just had Wikipedia open this entire time.
I love this stuff, and I've read it so much,
and it shows.
And I've been, quote-unquote, researching it for 25 years now, so there you go. That's Superman. This is the comic that got me into comics. And then, I will say, I shouldn't admit this, but even though I have the collection of these, I have each of the individual issues of the Death of Superman, the funeral stuff, and the Return. So I got like the whole storyline in in
In multiple copies.
in single issue form. I just wanted it, and you can get, people stocked up on these comics thinking, oh, they're going to be worth so much money. They're not. Like I got the Death issue, a first edition copy of the Death issue for like $5. I was listening to another podcast one time, a Superman podcast called Crisis to Crisis, a Superman podcast, and when they were doing this, they had they have like a write-in where people could write in questions, and they're saying like, oh hey, I got like 10 copies of the Death of Superman issue. How do I make it go up in value? And their response was, burn 9 of them. Because there's so many, because so many people want to collect them for investments, but the more you have, the less valuable something is. So, I don't know. I got nothing else to say. I mean, I can go on for hours about Superman. There was a couple months ago, my wife was having trouble falling asleep, so she was like, tell me a story or just talk to me. And I'm like, all right, I'll tell you. I was talking to her about, let me tell you the story of Superman. And so I was telling her all about the story, and she kept asking questions like, well, we got to go back to this. And we were going on for a little bit, and after a little bit, she's like, okay, I think I can fall asleep now. I'm like, okay, good. I'm glad I could bore you to sleep.
I'm done with this bullshit.
She probably was. She said to me like the following day, like, no, it was interesting what you're saying. I'm like, was it though? Like, I would not blame her if she was like bored to tears, but I guess that was the point. She wanted to get to sleep. So, yeah. Hey, I got trivia.
Oh yeah? Are we ready to move on to trivia?
I guess. I don't know. Do you have any final thoughts on this?
No, I've gotten it all out.
You know what we should do? We should have a podcast one day where I just start talking about Superman or Star Trek or something, and you stop me to ask a question, and we'll just see how long it goes with this conversation.
Yeah.
But
we'll just pick a random single issue comic, and I'll see how many questions I can generate from a single issue.
Probably could.
Yeah, I like that idea.
It's trivia time.
Anyway, so my trivia for today. In the second volume of the Death of Superman trilogy, if you want to call it that, during Superman's funeral, one of the speakers at the funeral is Bill and Hillary Clinton.
No.
Now, you might think, what's so weird about that? He was the president and the first lady at the time. Well, here's the thing. This was the first time they were actually included in a comic book form, in a mainstream comic anyway. But this was really, it takes time for them to write and draw and get published. Mm-hmm. So when that particular issue came out, it was right after the election, meaning that they would have drawn and wrote this a couple months before the election was actually done. So they just gambled and assumed Clinton was going to win the election.
Or they just had two different storylines, two different scenes.
That is possible. I will grant you that. I've read an interview that says otherwise. But they would have said, well, if they lost, it just would have been one of those weird things that got in the book. But if Bush had won, I could see them doing a quick redraw or something. But
no.
So that's my trivia. That if they'd done it, they just assumed that the Clintons were going to win, and if they didn't, and the story I heard is true, then we would have had a weird anachronism, I don't know, a weird oddity in this Superman comic. So that's my trivia.
Cool. All right. Ready to close this bad boy out?
I think so. I think that's going to do it for us. This is going to be an epic episode to edit because we're at an hour and 20 right now, and oh my god! But that's okay. That's okay. So I guess it's going to do it. So I'm Nick.
I'm the Gorehound.
And this has been the All New Culture Cast. We will see you next week. You've been listening to the All New Culture Cast. one of Chicagoland's finest podcasts.
You're making me fall asleep to death.
Well, I guess there's not much we can do about that. In the meantime, check out our blog at znculturecast.wordpress.com. Send us an email at nick.culturecast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear your feedback, comments, and requests. Follow us on social media. Theme music by bensound.com. This has been a Saltwater production, copyright 2017. Thanks for listening. Like when we went to the one in summer, which was actually, it wasn't in DuPage, it was somewhere else. I can't remember.
McCook.
McCook, yes.
Yeah, a very weird name. Don't
Yeah.
like it.